First contact error. The warning that came too late. Ambassador Kelrix of the Vorian Collective had made one critical mistake. He ignored the warning buoy. The small diplomatic vessel drifted past the bright orange marker that floated at the edge of the star system. Its message broadcast in 300 languages across all known frequencies: warning, human territory. Unauthorized entry prohibited. Lethal force authorized. Kelrix dismissed it with a wave of his primary manipulator. The Vorians had explored 2,000 systems. They had negotiated with 17 different species. They knew how things worked in civilized space. Territorial claims were just opening positions in negotiations. The warning was theater, nothing more. Continue course, he ordered his pilot. Take us to the third planet. His science officer, a younger Vorian named Thess, looked up from her console with concern showing in the flutter of her head frills. Ambassador, perhaps we should transmit our diplomatic credentials first. The humans are an unknown species. We have no data on there. We have all the data we need, Kelrix interrupted. They achieved faster than light travel only 30 years ago. They have colonized 8 systems. By galactic standards, they are infants. He settled into his seat with confidence. We will introduce ourselves, establish trade agreements, and add them to the collective by week's end. The ship moved deeper into the system. Past the frozen outer planets. Past the gas giants with their dancing moons. Toward the blue and green world that orbited in the habitable zone. When humans say no. 3 hours into their approach, the communications panel lit up. A transmission, audio only, in perfect Vorian. Unknown vessel, this is Earth Defense Station Olympus. You have entered restricted space. Reverse course immediately or you will be fired upon. Kelrix activated his response channel. Greetings, Earth Defense Station. I am Ambassador Kelrix of the Vorian Collective. We come in peace to establish diplomatic relations. We request permission to enter orbit and begin formal negotiations. There was a long pause. Then the human voice returned, and Kelrix noticed something odd. The translator was working perfectly, but there was an edge to the words that made his spine ridges tingle. Ambassador Kelrix, your vessel passed a clearly marked warning buoy. You are instructed not to enter this system. Turn around now. I understand there has been a misunderstanding, Kelrix said smoothly, using his most diplomatic tone. However, according to Galactic Council Protocol 7, all species have the right to initiate peaceful contact regardless of territorial claims. We invoke that right. Another pause. This one longer. Ambassador, we are not members of your Galactic Council. We don't recognize their authority or their protocols. This is your final warning. Leave now or face the consequences. Kelrix felt his confidence waver slightly, but he had been in difficult negotiations before. Every species had its pride. You simply had to show them that cooperation was in their best interest. I respect your position, he said carefully. But surely you understand that isolation is not practical in modern galactic society. We offer trade, technology exchange, cultural programs. There is nothing to fear from contact. The response came immediately this time, and the voice was colder than the void outside. We don't fear contact, Ambassador. We fear contamination. You have 60 seconds to change course. The mistake becomes clear. Thess looked up from her console, her frills fully extended in alarm. Ambassador, I'm detecting multiple energy signatures. They've powered up weapons platforms. Dozens of them. They're everywhere. How did we not see them before? Kelrix stared at his tactical display. Where there had been empty space moments ago, now dozens of platforms appeared. No, not platforms. Ships. They had been there all along, hidden somehow, waiting. Impossible, he whispered. Stealth technology that advanced requires centuries of development. 30 seconds, the human voice said. Wait. Kelrix transmitted. We are unarmed. Firing on a diplomatic vessel violates every standard of civilized conduct. 20 seconds. Pilot, prepare evasive maneuvers. This is insane. Kelrick shouted. You would start an interstellar incident over a simple misunderstanding? 10 seconds. Thess gripped her console. Ambassador, we need to leave. Now. Kelrick's pride finally shattered. Pilot, reverse course. Maximum speed. The ship began to turn, its engines straining. 5 seconds. 4. 3. Course change detected, the human voice said. Weapons hold. Ambassador Kelrick, you will exit this system at your current heading. Any deviation will result in immediate destruction. Is this understood? Yes, Kelrick said quietly. Understood. The real power. As they retreated, Thess worked her console frantically. Ambassador, I'm analyzing the platforms that revealed themselves. The technology, it's far beyond what our intelligence suggested. Those ships are using quantum stealth fields. Directed energy weapons with gigawatt output. Point defense systems that could track a grain of sand at 10,000 kilometers. Kelrick felt cold. How? They've had FTL for only 30 years. That's what our records say, Thess replied. But these systems took centuries to develop. Unless. She looked up at him. Unless they didn't start developing them 30 years ago. Unless they were already working on them before they left their planet. The implication hit Kelrick like a physical blow. Most species achieved faster than light travel, then spent centuries developing weapons and defenses for space. Humans had done it backward. They had built the weapons first, while still trapped in their single system, and only then reached for the stars. What kind of species builds warships before they can leave their home? He asked. Thess looked at him, her eyes reflecting genuine fear. A species that grew up expecting to fight for everything. A species that doesn't trust anyone. A species that. She paused. That was probably right not to trust us. As their ship crossed back past the warning buoy, Kelrick understood his mistake. He had assumed humans were like every other young species in the galaxy, eager for contact, hungry for acceptance, willing to compromise. But humans had put up a warning. They had meant it. And when he ignored it, they had shown him exactly what happened to those who thought human boundaries were negotiable. The report. Return to the collective. The Vorian Council chamber was designed to impress. Carved from a single crystal formation, it rose 300 meters high, with light filtering through in patterns that showed the glory of Vorian civilization. Kelrick stood at the center, feeling smaller than he ever had before. High Counselor Vren looked down from his elevated seat, his age-darkened ridges giving him an air of unquestionable authority. Ambassador Kelrick, you were sent to establish contact with the humans. Instead, you retreated without even setting foot on their world. Explain. Kelrick activated his data pad, projecting images from his encounter. High Counselor, I made an error in judgment. The humans are not what our intelligence suggested. They are a young species, Vren said dismissively. 30 years of spaceflight. 8 colonized systems. By what measurement are they a threat? By every measurement that matters, Kelrick said quietly. He pulled up the technical analysis. Their weapons technology is 4 centuries ahead of their spaceflight capability. They possess stealth systems we haven't even theorized. Their defense grid around Earth alone could destroy our entire exploration fleet. Counselor Mara, representing the military caste, leaned forward with interest. You're suggesting they pose a military threat? I'm suggesting they built their civilization expecting threats, Kelrick replied. Most species develop space travel, then gradually militarize as they encounter dangers. Humans militarized first, then expanded outward already armed. Understanding the warning. Thess stepped forward, projecting new data. Counselors, with your permission, I conducted extensive research after our encounter. I accessed every piece of human cultural data available through neutral trading networks. What I found explains their behavior. Proceed, Vren said. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, thus began. On their world, they were not the strongest or fastest predators. So they developed endurance. They could track prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. This shaped their psychology. They don't give up. Ever. She changed the projection, showing historical data. But more importantly, their entire recorded history is defined by conflict. Not occasional wars between nations, like most species experience, but constant, unending warfare. For 10,000 years before they reached space, they fought each other. City against city. Nation against nation. Ideology against ideology. Barbaric, Counselor Vren muttered. Perhaps, Vess said. But it made them exceptionally good at one thing, understanding threats and responding to them with overwhelming force. She pulled up an image of Earth from orbit, its surface showing the lights of vast cities. When humans finally stopped fighting each other long enough to reach space, they didn't assume the galaxy would be peaceful. They assumed it would be like their own history, full of potential enemies. So they prepared. The Silence Protocol. Kelrix took over the presentation. The humans have a doctrine they call the Silence Protocol. It's simple. Keep your territory secure. Don't advertise your capabilities. Don't invite contact until you're ready. And if someone crosses your borders without permission, show them enough force to ensure they never come back. We passed their warning buoy, he continued, his voice heavy with regret. They didn't see it as an innocent mistake. They saw it as a test. A probe to measure their response. And they responded by showing us they could destroy us at any time, but chose not to. Counselor Mara's frills extended in understanding. A demonstration of controlled power. More intimidating than simple violence. Exactly, Kelrix said. They wanted us to return and tell everyone what we encountered. To spread the message that human space is not to be entered casually. High Counselor Vren was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. What do you recommend, Ambassador? I recommend we respect their boundaries, Kelrix said immediately. Send a formal apology through neutral channels. Acknowledge that we violated their clearly stated territorial claim. Request that, if and when they are ready for contact, they reach out to us. You want us to wait for them to contact us? Vren's tone was incredulous. The Vorian Collective has initiated first contact with 17 species. We have never waited. Those 17 species wanted to be contacted, Kelrix replied. The humans don't. Not yet. And forcing the issue will not end well for us. The choice. Counselor Mara spoke up. High Counselor, I've reviewed the tactical data. The Ambassador is correct. The humans have military capabilities that exceed our own in several key areas. Stealth technology. Weapons efficiency. Defensive coordination. A conflict would be costly, even if we prevailed. Which we might not, Thess added quietly. Vren's ridges darkened, a sign of deep thought. You believe they would actually fight? All galactic disputes are resolved through negotiation and council mediation. The humans don't recognize the council's authority, Kelrix said. They didn't ask to join galactic society. We assumed they wanted what every species wants, connection, trade, cultural exchange. But humans are different. They value security over connection. They value self-reliance over cooperation. That's not sustainable, Vren argued. Eventually they'll need resources from other systems. They'll need trade partners. They'll need allies. Perhaps, Kelrix agreed. Or perhaps they'll simply take what they need. They've colonized 8 systems in 30 years without anyone's permission. They're not asking for our approval. They're not seeking our guidance. They're expanding on their own terms, and they're doing it with a military force that could challenge any existing power. The council chamber fell silent. Above them, light filtered through the crystalline patterns that had witnessed 3,000 years of Vorian decisions. This was a decision unlike any they had faced before. Finally, Vren spoke. We will honor the silence protocol. Transmit formal apologies. Mark human space as restricted on all navigation charts. And we will wait. How long? Mara asked. Vren looked at the projected image of Earth, that small blue world that had produced such a fierce species. Until they're ready. Or until we have no choice. The real lesson. As the council session ended, Thess approached Kelrix. Do you think they'll eventually join galactic civilization? Kelrix thought about the cold voice from Earth Defense Station. The hidden weapons. The absolute unwillingness to compromise. I think, he said slowly, that when humans finally decide to engage with the galaxy, they won't be joining our civilization. They'll be creating their own. And we'll have to decide whether to join theirs. Thessa's frills fluttered with anxiety. That's a frightening thought. Yes, Kelrix agreed. But after meeting them, I think I understand something important. Humans put up warnings not because they're afraid of us. They put up warnings because they're trying to protect us from what they'll do if we force them to respond. You mean they're showing restraint? I mean they're showing mercy, Kelrix said. And we should be grateful. Because I suspect that when humans finally stop showing mercy, the galaxy will learn why they built weapons before they built starships. Why they prepared for war before they sought peace. He looked up at the crystal ceiling, thinking of the vast darkness beyond. They're not avoiding contact because they're weak. They're avoiding contact because they know exactly how strong they are. And they're giving us time to understand that before we make a mistake we can't take back. Thess was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, what happens when that time runs out? Kelrix had no answer. He simply watched the stars through the crystal and hoped that when humanity finally emerged from behind their warnings, the galaxy would be ready. But he doubted it would be.